this is a 2-year-old video. I'm sure it still applies 2 years later because not like the dating scene's got any better. It's probably gotten worse if we're being honest. So, let's do some good old Floyd bashing.
I have a question for the men. Do you guys still want to get married?
I think what you're asking is, do you want to be married? And I think that a lot of men would say, yes, I do want a partner to spend my life with. But when you say, do you want to get married? I'm not sure if you're keeping in mind all these extra steps that come before and the possible ones after. Here's a guy living in a cardboard box with his ex-wife in his house with other men. You have to keep in mind that happens with roughly 1/3 of new marriages, and that's only for the men who have the opportunity to get married, which is contingent upon a bunch of steps that have changed quite a bit over the years. So
I definitely want to play Wind Waker now because it's just lag pilling content. That's expected from Whole Math. Like I said, I like him a lot. He was banned off Twitter for like a few months, and I was really sad because I like his tweets a lot. He's very, very wild and extreme over there, and I'm not surprised whatsoever he got banned, especially because he's going a little bit psycho. I mean, he's literally rebranding the psychomath these days. But it's definitely really black pilling content, to say the least. Well, when it comes down to it, because it's unfortunately marriage rates are in the toilet. I can't remember the statistic off my head, so take this with a grain of salt. I know like 30% of women want to get married these days, and about 60% of men want to get married. So it's literally half. And then that's getting the married part, right? And like you said, the extra steps in between before they even get the marriage part in the first place. And actually getting the girl. I hear nothing but horror stories every single day that I'm on Twitter about how bad the dating scene is, how bad Hinge is, or Plenty of Fish, or Bumble, or any of these dating apps.
in order to get married, you have to date, and in order to date, you have to work and make money, and in order to work and make money, you have to go to school, and men have been facing a lot of new difficulties in all of these areas over the last few decades. So, do I want to have a partner? Yes, but do I want to go through all of this again? Not right now. So,
I mean, when it comes to the school part, once you get over it, you're basically done. As long as you didn't fuck it up, you're mandatory to go through middle school and high school, and then depending if you go to college or trades will affect your life. But as long as you pick a relatively good degree and play your cards right, you should ideally, right, in an ideal perfect society, you would be able to get a job. It's where the work part comes in. The work part is the hard part with DEI being implemented, and then also now the problem with the H-1Bs and visas in general. Because keep in mind, chat, when I say H-1Bs, I mean all visas, because there's the L1, there's the O1, there's the J1, there's also like a J2, there's a student visa, which a lot of Indians do get a student visa over here and then transfer that over to like the J, or is it the L? And then it gets into the H1B. There's a whole fucking visa scam this way. But then you also have travel visas, which is how illegals come in from Eastern Europe in particular, which I know they're not the biggest problem of all the illegals and immigrants in general, but it's a very popular illegal way to come in is get a travel visa, hop in New York City, and then you just never leave, and then get an under the table job there until eventually you can actually find a real job that can actually give you a work visa. And then you have, once again, a work visa here. So that's why I say that all the visas need to kind of go, and that's causing problems in the workforce. And then, of course, the illegals are, stealing the jobs and the welfare. And the workforce is not made for men whatsoever. And women want money, and that's why they want to make so much money. But they want a man who makes more than them, and that's just not realistic. The cards are definitely not in men's favor, unfortunately.
you want to get married, you have to date, you want to date, you have to work, you want to work, you have to go to school. This is where a lot of male problems begin. I'm not saying that schoolgirls have it easy, but the last few decades, schoolboys have been treated like they are defective. In 3rd grade, I used to finish my work before the other kids, and I would get up and move around, and they told me that was not okay, so they medicated me. When I got a little older, the other boys would start fights, and I went to the authorities to do the right thing, and they punished both of us. So then I took matters into my own hands, and they punished just me because of these policies. They don't let boys just fight it out anymore. Those type.
See, this is why I advocate for homeschooling so much. There's a million reasons to do so, but the medicating in particular is a real bother for me because I hate Big Pharma. And to see a young boy who, all of history is known that boys have a shit ton of energy and they like to fight and they like to tussle around and explore and to be very adventurous and work with their hands. And you put them in school where school is made specifically for girls. Because back in the day, girls didn't actually go to school, not nowhere to the same extent as they are, but then women's rights and all that other fun stuff came in, and boys were punished for it. They'll fucking medicate them because they have energy and they want to like just move. They're kids. It's everybody knows kids got a lot of energy. That's why you let them play and get them tuckered out and put them to bed at 8 p.m. To wake kids at the ass crack at dawn and shovel them into fucking brick cells for 9 hours a day, or they can't do anything but stare at a wall and lose their fucking minds, but then shove them back home and then force them to do even more mind-numbing schoolwork. Homeschooling, you can make all that schoolwork happen in like 2 hours because you, the parent, can just focus on your own kids, and because you have that attention to detail, you can work at your kids' pace. Obviously, you need to be careful. And, there's going to be some bad parents, there's going to be lazy parents out there who are not actually going to take initiative and are going to do like the whole deschooling method and just have kids learn naturally. No, you have to set a schedule with them. You have to sit them down. You do have to make them do school sheets and things like that. But the kid can advance much faster because kids are much more capable than what people realize they can do if they have that one-on-one tutoring and they can just do it as a parent, and it'll save you money in the long run, and your kid will be so much healthier and you have a better relationship with them. There's literally no downsides to it whatsoever unless you're a bad parent. But like if you're a bad parent for like homeschooling, then you're a bad parent in general.
Of policies are not setting young boys up for success. They punish the way that we natively look at the world. It definitely messed me up a little, and that was 30 years ago, and I have no idea what's going on now. When we get older and go to college, there are all kinds of things in place to help girls that are not available for boys, and they say that it's there to correct problems, but I don't think those problems exist anymore. So as we
Well,
are
there's definitely problems these days, but it only affects boys. We overcorrected. In my opinion, we never should have corrected in the first place.
accumulating what we need to succeed in life, boys are getting less of a head start than they used to, which is, I think, one of the contributing reasons for why they say they have Peter Pan syndrome and they never grow up. I think it starts here. When we get into the workplace, there are similar programs that benefit women and not men. And that's an issue because women want to make equal money to men, but then they also want men to make more and support them, and you can't have both. Additionally, the culture has become very inhospitable towards men, and again, the way that men communicate and behave. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the economy is getting pretty bad, and even though that affects everybody, men are the ones who are expected to pay, so this puts us at an increasing disadvantage comparative to women as we age. Then when
I don't even think that women actually want to make the same pay as men. Like, you had the feminists, especially back in the day, crying about wage gap that's a fucking myth, and the pink tax and all these other false problems. But it's not because they actually want it, it's because they've been propagandized to believe that they're oppressed. They're very emotional creatures, and if you tell them there's a wrongdoing in the world, that they're poor innocent children just wanting a better life crossing the border, or like the gays, or the trannies, whoever the oppressed class is of the week, that's what they're going to be advocating for. So I don't think they actually want the same wages as men, because they clearly actually want a man that makes more. That's very clear that they do. They just say that they do because they feel like it's unequal and not fair, because society has been structured in a way to push egalitarianism, but not the meritocracy that needs to go with it if we're going to actually do so.
we get out into the dating world, if you don't have any money, that's going to be a problem. If you can't compete on the dating apps, which most men cannot, that's going to be a problem. If you're not okay with her having an OnlyFans or an Instagram or whatever, it's going to take some women off the table because they have so much attention. So a lot of men are playing catch up at this point in life when that didn't used to be the case. So our parents and grandparents did not have any of these problems. They just sort of grew up, got jobs, and married whoever was nearby. Have you ever thought of it like, would your mother have married your father if she had Tinder? Would she have chosen him? There's stuff going on in these phases of life.
Actually, no. It's very much a proximity thing. So, I'm an armchair psychologist, and I took AP Psych when I was in high school. And one of the little factoids I remember learning was that most relationships are proximity based. That you've met your life partner by the time you turn 18. I don't think that's actually true anymore. But let's say like 15 to 20 years ago, that was more than likely actually the case, because a lot of relationships are based off proximity. Because remember that everything about the modern world is is brand new. We have never had globalism before. We have never had this such advanced technology where a random woman in the middle of fucking nowhere can dress up as an anime woman and talk to guys millions of miles away just with a click of a button. And so when my parents started dating back in like the 70s and the 80s, there still was no real way to meet somebody unless you actually drove out of your way to do so. You've met everybody just by going through life regularly. A friend of a friend recommends you to somebody. Or in my parents' case, my mom worked at a diner that my dad visited a lot. And that's how relationships are supposed to naturally grow. That's why you used to have people who weren't probably actually all that similar, but because of just being around each other, were able to develop some sort of friendship or relationship. But these days, with the internet, possibilities are endless. That's why we have long distance relationships, which are always a fucking disaster. Because that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to just be around people. This is not normal.
For us, that would have been unheard of even one generation ago. I once had a job where I worked with a girl. We had the same job. I had more experience. We had layoffs, and later she matched with me on Bumble and came to hook up. And I said, would you like to continue doing this? And she told me that I didn't have my life together enough. We were living in the same place, in the same job market, and we came from the same job, and I had more experience. And she was getting $120K a year to do some like women's leadership job or something, and I was driving for Uber. So, I think a lot of people are really underestimating how much easier this makes things. So then if you can actually get to this point, you as a man, you have to take everything that you've managed to put together over the course of your life and put it all on the table for someone who is probably not doing the same. Even though women are not having a hard time in the workplace, men are still generally expected to provide, while women generally keep more of their money for themselves. We've all heard, my money is my money, his money is my money. I found this...
Not to completely defend this attitude, because obviously it's kind of shitty, but once again, it's the natural order of things. Women want to be protected and provided for, and in return, they're supposed to give sex and children and take care of the household. And them being the workforce is actually stealing jobs from men. Whatever that fake job that she had, that $120,000 salary could have gone to him or a different man in general. And statistics have proven that when guys are making high money and get promoted, they're more likely to get married and have kids. But when women are the ones making a large amount of money and getting promoted, then they're not likely to get married and have kids. Because women are like dragons in a cave, hoarding the gold. They're not meant to actually share their resources. They're meant to hoard it as much as possible, because it's supposed to be given to their children and nobody else. But they're not having those children, so therefore they have no one to give it to. And so they just kind of keep it there. But they still expect the man to protect and provide them, because that's what they're drawn to. There's a statistic that came out today or yesterday that stay-home boyfriends/husbands are on the rise. Any relationship where the man works at home or stays at home will eventually fall apart, because a woman just hates the idea of a man not doing anything. Even if he is working from home, just the fact that he is home and not leaving the house and not out of her sight bothers her. You need to go out and just beat some mammoths and bring back the meat. Something very monkey brain and primal about it. And if women get the ick, then they're not going to be dating the men. And then the men aren't going to get married and they're not going to have kids.
Great little video about that.
But I just have a quick question. My husband won't see all of my accounts, right? I have like 8 different bank accounts, but my husband only knows about 2 of them. I've just been secretly saving for years in case I ever need to. Oh, no, say no more. I don't need to see those statements, so as far as I'm concerned, they don't exist.
Yeah, so I don't love the idea that my wife might be hiding money. Of course,
I'm assuming that's a TikTok skit, but like, what, is she talking to like the bank or trying to get a loan or something like that? Or they need to see the bank statements? Like, how many women actually do this? I can't imagine doing that. What do you mean I have 8 fucking bank accounts? I can barely track the fucking one that I have.
allowed to do that. All of my money has to be on the table, and there's about a 1/3 chance that you're going to be taking it to party with other dudes in the house that I bought for you. Divorce laws have changed too. You used to need a really good reason to get divorced, but now it can happen just because someone is not happy. They even write songs about it. Check this out.
No fault divorce and the fucking consequences upon society. We need to completely revert it. And then also, just for extra measure, make it really hard for men to get divorce raped. There are some cases where women should get divorced in custody of the child, right? Obviously, men are not just wholesome little beings. I don't even want to say they overcorrected because it's done on purpose. It's a very malicious thing that they've done to disenfranchise specifically white men.
I have to mute it for copyright, I'll read it to you. Might be the only guy who didn't send me hearted eyes in reply to my latest story. We work well on paper, we don't argue, we don't fight, but lighting scented candles just won't relight up our fire. And right there she goes, ah. It ain't that bad, it's just not what I wanted. Don't want to
Beautiful
live this
singing.
life half-hearted. Hang on, here it comes. I want fireworks and flames. Don't want safe, tame, practical. That ain't enough, that ain't love.
It's frustrating to see a pretty white void doing this kind of shit because she's mistaking lust for love. Lust is important. You need to be physically attracted to somebody. You need to be a strong man. You need to be dominant. But women go after bad boys for a reason because they add that danger. As much as Jordan Peterson has fallen off, his old quote about having the capacity for danger is essential to a relationship. You need to make sure your void always is aware that you can choke her out and beat her. That means she can respect you. And respect is, once again, essential for the relationship because if she doesn't respect you, she's not going to feel like she's weak. And women want to feel weak. And that goes back to connecting lust and love. It's also important to remember that women are not the romantic sex, men are. Women only know what they want to receive. All the romanticy shit is all about receiving things. Being the perfect fucking blank slate bimbo. Not having to do a care in the world. Now, women were taught not that long ago how to actually serve their man, have sex with them regularly, cook, clean, have a bunch of children, be simply nice to the guy in the first place. But even then, it was for their advantage to receive something. Men are romantic sex because they want to actually give in the first place.
This is the squircle of unconsciousness. It represents how people don't know how relationships work, and so they think the relationship is going to go like this, and then it turns a corner. I think she's at the dissatisfied part. You can't have everything is exciting all the time. Good choices are boring. No relationships are going to be fun the whole time. They're all going to have spots where there's no fire. But she don't want safe, tame, practical. That ain't enough. That's not even love. Look how passionate she is about dumping her husband.
This bitch looks like she's like as pretty as she is. She looks like she's pushing 30. It could be the makeup because sometimes women wear makeup and make them look older. But if she's already married, I'm guessing she's around 30. And she's basically bored of the relationship, which is not a healthy mentality to have. And she thinks she can do better. But the thing is, a guy these days that give pussy tingles are usually kind of like the bad boys. And those are not actually good for long-term relationships. So she's gonna just get pumped and dumped.
That's real, I can spot a faker. And she even sings about other men giving her googly eyes on her Instagram stories. So this girl is what I would call an excitement chaser. She starts out her new relationships excited, and over time gets bored when they're not chaotic, and then by the time we notice she's bored, she's already got a new guy lined up, and this has pretty nasty effects on us. So
not to defend women, because everything about this void is horrible. However, to explain once again the woman's side of things as a vagina holder myself, monkey branching is a biological default that you would not actually get rid of at a woman unless you want to make robot waifus, okay? Because, once again, women want to be protected and provided for, and they always will have a backup plan in case the original thing fails. Like, he dies, he cheats. Now, will she be in contact with the backup plan? Will she be in love with him? That will vary depending on the void. Unfortunately, I think it's a little bit more common for them to be relatively in contact these days. But even back in the olden days, women still had backup plans. It's simply part of biological programming because they need to have something there to save them from when they fall. I'm not saying women can't love. I'm not saying women can't be loyal, but they definitely need a tight leash upon them to do so. Because if not, the biological monkey brain will kick in and they will just monkey branch as much as possible until they feel like they can finally settle down. And for a lot of modern women, when they have literally unlimited access and Tinder and all these likes and all that kind of stuff, they don't ever feel like they can ever actually settle down because they have so many options. You should actually put a very tight leash upon women. There's a reason why every single civilization from the time of human history have always had strict rules upon them to stop them from doing these things. Because the monkey brain will be reactivated as soon as you let the leash off. And we have let cut the leash off. The leash is burned in a fire called feminism, and we need to make a new one.
Your relationship satisfaction is going to change over time, but your stability is not supposed to. That's what marriage is. That's what it's for. Even when you start feeling like things are not as fun, you have to remember that commitments are what gets you through the swings. I actually have a little theory that this takes about a year. Obviously, we get up and go to sleep with the sun, and women have changes in their hormones and emotions with the moon, and I think that a year is the amount of time that it takes to find somebody and have that strong emotional connection, get pregnant, and have a child. It's about 1 year altogether. And this girl is making a spiritual experience out of a biological process, and she's allowed to end the marriage over it. So it's not that I don't want a partner, it's just that a lot of us don't have what we need to build a partnership, and even if we
You know, I kind of actually agree with that 1 year thing from a more biological perspective, like he was saying, because you're supposed to be able to get the butterfly feelings, right? You're supposed to get the infatuation phase. And logically, you need to wait out the infatuation phase. But back in the day, you didn't. You met, you go on a few dates a few times, and then you got married. Usually, the desire to have sex is so strong, but there was limitations on having sex. As soon as they get married, they can actually do it. But nowadays, thanks to the rules and regulations that we have set up, we had to do everything super logically and slow, which on one hand is a good thing, right? You don't want to just hook up and get married to somebody you just met. But what's going back to the proximity thing about how you're supposed to find somebody in your general area. Your friends and family are supposed to recommend people. The people who recommended to you from being in the same area are actually supposed to be closely compatible to you just by simply being close by and having the same culture, having the same connection by simply being small communities. So you wouldn't have to actually worry about this random stranger pumping and dumping you, or the cases and leaving you with a kid. I do think the infatuation phase is there for a reason to get people connected, get pregnant as fast as possible, and then you can settle down and grow from there. Now, is that exactly the right way of going there about things? I don't know if I would say that. There are definitely some advantages to waiting, especially in the case of the modern age, where you have to actually be very picky and choosy, and you have to look out for warning signs. Oh, but that means that the infatuation period dies and she can get bored, and that's a whole different story right there.
get it, it could fall apart immediately. She could squircle herself into believing it's not love and have a phone in her pocket with 1,400 horny guys on it, and then I end up here. So what you've done by fighting for equality is you've basically said, hey, you want to play a game of chess? I get all queens though. Hey, where are you going?
Do you guys still want to get married? Like, is that still a thing?
I hope this all made it clear why it's less of a thing.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of Foy defense, and I don't like doing Foy defense. If we're gonna be a little bit generous to her argument here, if she's talking about the situation where the guy needs to shit or get off the pot after dating for quite a few years, if you don't get married within 5 years of dating, move on. You're wasting each other's time, and it's there being comfortable. And usually in that scenario, it's the guy holding out because he's either lazy or uncertain or comfortable, and he doesn't actually want to lock it and have the commitment. They want to have the option of leaving because they're not actually certain in their choice, but they're too scared to actually go out and try to find somebody else. So they just kind of sit there. And that is something that a lot of guys do. Obviously, hashtag not all. I'm not trying to bash the men here, okay? But that is something that does happen. I will also say in that situation, it's the woman's fault for not leaving, because if she actually cares about marriage in any way, shape, or form, and he's not proposing, then she needs to leave instead of waiting forever and wasting her time as much as possible. So technically, they're both responsible, but for like two different things. I would say in this scenario, the guy's more at fault just because the woman's waiting around and staying, waiting for you to actually do it. But there needs to be a little bit of responsibility of the woman in this case too. Not like the woman's going to take any responsibility because they're a woman, but still. And if she's talking about kind of that situation where she's got burned, then that's a little bit more understandable where she's coming from. But I have a feeling that's not actually where she's coming from, and home math is taking the correct position and answering her question here.